everybody. Welcome back to the Underwater Photography Show. I'm Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And today, if you're watching this, you know that we are doing a review of the winners of the UN World Oceans Day competition. So we have a previous video on the Ocean Geographic competition winners. They both announced on the exact same day. And actually this time there's not overlap in any of the category winners. So we'll be discussing all new images today. This one's like the UN's official underwater competition. So these pictures get shown at the UN conference whenever and wherever that is.
Well, it's moved to Nice this year. Lots of my friends and old colleagues are all down in Nice at the moment, debating stuff like, the UK's trying to stop sea bottom trawling in protected areas and things. So I know actually Eliel's old boss is there doing that, pushing for that. But yeah, and all those sorts of things are going on down there. We don't normally review this one. I have to say, because usually the Ocean Geographic one has much more interest and it's got much stronger images. But I thought this year that the UN competition actually had really nice pictures. Lots of stuff I hadn't seen around the block loads of times. So I thought it was really worth covering. So I think all the pictures are really strong this year in this competition. Yeah. And I wouldn't always say that in previous years. Other years, it's kind of been, this feels a bit like the leftovers from everywhere else. But this year, it felt like a lot of really nice stuff. So yeah, I was very impressed with the shots. So well worth highlighting them on the channel. Right.
Yeah, so they don't really say if there's an overall winner, but I would assume so. This is like the flagship image, it seems, for the competition. This is the category winner for sustaining what sustains us. Every year they changed up the conservation categories a little bit, but this is by Rachel Moore. It's a humpback whale eye. And ever since she first posted this on Instagram, however long ago that was, this has been one of my favorite underwater images in recent memory. Because it's a subject that is photographed millions of times, but almost never like this. So it's a humpback whale. And usually when you see humpbacks, everyone shoots with a fisheye. You want to get the whole animal in there. You want to see it, everything like that. I assume this is still probably a fisheye, but she just got very, very close to what turns out to be a remarkably detailed eye of a humpback. And I don't know how to put it necessarily I don't know how to word it eloquently, but you get to see the soul of the whale in this image, which I think you don't really get to see when you just see the big grand images of them as a full animal.
Yeah, and I know, we talked about it in the other competition review video. I know that photographing whales is a sensitive topic at the moment. And there's lots of people out there arguing, do we really need another fleet of people all going off to, chase around after humpbacks every season? I fully endorse that point of view. If it's people who want to take their own selfie with a whale, that just seems very disrespectful of the opportunity they've got with nature, where they're really only interested in photographing themselves and being able to show other people what was behind them. But a picture like this, which I feel breaks fantastic new ground with that subject. I know people have done whale eyes before, but as you said, I think this is a very deserving winner. It's a very remarkable underwater photo. And I think in terms of reaching out to the public, it's exactly the sort of still photo that has that potential and therefore is a very deserving winner. And yes, if everyone went there and did got this close and tried to do shots like this, it probably wouldn't be a great thing for the whales. But I think this particular image would do far, far more good for whales and really will allow, the majority of people in the world who will get to see this picture will never get to see a humpback whale. And I think this will give them the chance to connect with that subject.
Yeah. And I love the light on it too. You have the cascading light and shadows down the whole face. It's beautiful.
I guess it turned and looked up to the surface or something. Anyway, it's fantastic. One thing that caught my eye about this, and I don't know all the details of it, but I saw on Facebook that Ocean Geographic, the other contest we covered this week, they commended this picture, But initially, I saw this picture on their Facebook feed where it said that this picture was the winner of the whole competition and the Picture of the Year award for this shot, which, you can understand being such a deserving shot. But when I visited their website, I don't see that now. So I'm not quite sure. And now it's listed only as highly commended, not as a winner. So I don't know whether Ocean Geographic demoted it because it won this other contest on the same day. I don't know if this is part of the politics of having two contests on the same day, or whether that was I got the wrong end of the stick when the Ocean Geographic post said that this was the overall winner and the top prize. I'm not quite sure how I could misconstrue those words, but so something fishy went on, or whaley went on with this one.
Whaley. I hope someday this wins something where it's printed large somewhere that I get to see, because I would love to see this on a big wall. I think it would be really incredible to see large. But well done, Rachel. It's a beautiful image, and every time I see it on who's ever reshared it on Instagram, I stop for a second and look at it because it's beautiful.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, next picture is a blurry Pinate batfish.
Yes, by Luis Arpa. This was second place in that same category, sustaining what sustains us. So there's only 4 categories, I think, in this competition. So we decided we're going to just cover all the pictures because there's not very many. So
and also I thought all the underwater ones were really good, so really worth.
Yeah, that too.
Just nice creative take on a strong subject, eye-catching, visually appealing. I think for me, it would be great if there was just a little bit more eye in this one. The reason that previous picture is so strong is, guess what? And I think this picture would just be so improved if a little bit of the light had caught the edge of the eye, or even with a little bit of post, you could just brighten that eye very slightly so it pops out a little bit more. But apart from that, it is fantastic.
Yeah, that's legit. My only critique of that is it was the same thing as I was like, man, I wish you could see a little bit of the eye. And maybe, like you said, maybe in post he could easily do it now and just bring it out a little bit. But I love the the macro blur, motion blur pictures don't do a whole lot for me. But this one's really cool because that orange is such a dramatic contrast to the blue and the black that I think it works really nicely. And the fins are still, you can see it coming off the fins, which I think is really nice.
Yeah.
Works
really it's really effective. It's unusual to see one away from the background like this, which I guess if you're sitting in a judging room, you go, how come this little fish that normally lives in holes and hides around is kind of out in the open in this way? I mean, there is some background behind it. It's not like it's in mid-water. But yeah, if this was, if this said taken in Bali or taken in Anlau, I might be slightly suspicious about it. But
I do.
But I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying, it's a bit unusual to see. And this is a particularly small one because as they get bigger, the fins get longer relative to the body. So this is kind of, very, very small. Anyway, it's very beautiful. I don't really want to get stuck into that. It's not a, swimming fish, if they have been persuaded to swim a little bit where they don't want to, it's not usually the end of the world. It's not like an animal that can't move that's picked up with fingers.
Yeah.
If it has been persuaded to swim somewhere, it's by someone, placing their hand near it and it swam over here so you could take a photo. And the fish chose to swim over there. So
the other thing I like about this is the motion blur. It really shows off the way they move those fins because they kind of ripple the fin the whole time. So seeing it ripple off of the fin, I think, is a really cool effect.
Yeah, it's very nice. Right, let's move along to our next one.
So this was third place in the same category. This was by Stephen Lopez, and it looks like a Caribbean reef shark. Yeah,
just on the surface, I guess in Cuba or the Bahamas or somewhere like that. Presumably on a baited shark dive, but it's a nice original shot. What I really love is that orange curve of the sun over the top of the shark. That is really interesting. I like the splash to the surface. It's probably, it's a long exposure while doing a split level, so you've ended up with blurring and splash across the dome, which I think creates a fantastically interesting and unusual texture. I think that the processing of the shark could be a little bit more punchy. It's a little bit lost and because the rest of the picture is so unsubtle, having this subtle shark for me doesn't gel particularly well with that. I think I'd like more bang from the shark because the
Yeah.
rest of the picture is so in your face in terms of visual appeal. But
Yeah.
I really like the shot still.
Yeah. Same. That's same for me. Is I wish the shark were a bit brighter, contrasty, bring the whites up or something like that.
Mm.
Or clearly he lit it with strobe because the shark is sharp, so maybe just a bit more strobe power as well, just to get it right in camera. I don't know, but yeah, I
Maybe
really
he
like.
made the decision to darken it down.
It's also possible. Yeah, I love the curve over the shark. I like the
Mm.
splash coming down over the dome, and like you said, that little orange. I'm glad you said what color it was because I couldn't tell. That orange streak right through the middle and up over the top of the shark is really nice as well.
Mm.
But I love a good slow shutter, especially for wide angle stuff, and this one did it really well.
Yeah, and when they're up at the surface like this, it's pretty cool. Like you get some unusual things going on. Right.
This was honorable mention in that same category by Ollie Clark, the humpback and her calf.
Yeah, it's nice. I think that I've seen better splits of humpbacks. I think this is, this shot is a really cool shot. It's a split level of a humpback and a calf. I mean, that's pretty cool. I would say that I don't think the split is that well handled. I think when you get perfect conditions, you can get a better split than this. I think that the mother's fin being across the face of the calf is a bit frustrating. And I think that there's a lot of surface and a lot of empty space relative to subject matter in this particular frame. And I think we've already had a humpback whale awarded. I'm not sure we need two humpback whales in the same, So for those reasons, I'm surprised this one was awarded. If the other humpback wasn't in it, I'd be like, wow, this definitely deserves to be awarded. But they've only got 10 underwater pictures, so like putting two in of the same species seems a bit much.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of empty space that doesn't really benefit the subject, and I think if the calf was totally underneath her pectoral, like just kind of protected under there, it'd be a lot. Maybe he has that frame. I can't imagine that was that hard to capture based on where the calf is right there. So maybe he does have that frame, but I would like to see that one.
It might have been choppy though, and it might have been this was the only really usable one. But
yeah,
I've seen this done in you see a lot of splits of the humpbacks. You see them done in perfect conditions, and this feels like not perfect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we're being I would say we're being harsh on the shot because there's another humpback in the category.
Yeah.
If it's so, you've already said, right, this is our best humpback shot. Why are we seeing a second? Anyway, it's any minor point. Right.
This is the winner of the big and small underwater faces category by Andre Nosik.
Very
awesome.
Cool creature. Seen, shots of it before. Unusual to have it so separated, I think. But I think the lighting really brings it out. The lighting is excellent. The framing is okay. But it's a very cool animal. I just feel like, you could have shot a vertical of this, had face, had it, all the empty space doesn't do anything for me in this shot. Like, why not shoot a vertical? Why not? But maybe, it's unusual to have one so sticking out, and maybe by the time everything else was right, it had retreated back into a burrow.
Yeah. So I love this fish. It's a bucket list fish. I hope to see one someday. Two things I wish would have been different. Either crop more off of this behind the fish, which is my right, I guess everyone right hand side. Crop off the right hand side since there's not much over there anyway, and then have the fish's face less angled out of the frame, or to have just a bit of more fill flash on the rest of the fish, so you could see the fin and the long war bonnety body as it off in the distance. I like the backscatter in there because it adds some interest in there, and I do like the harsh lighting from one direction because you get to see the textures and everything like that. But just a little bit of fill flash on the front, I think would have done wonders for the rest of the actual overall frame.
Yeah, I like the lighting as it is. I just think the composition is wrong. like
Fair
you
enough.
said. But yeah, just I think you want more of that face, not less of it. It's
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah. If you
right.
could have
Let's
gotten that head on, oh,
Yeah, but
would
I
have
like
been,
it from the side because sometimes head on you don't always get the good eye contact.
oh, that's true.
And I think head on you wouldn't get the texture the same.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're shooting it still with the same
Mm,
sort of lighting, yeah, you're right.
just kind of up and around. But it's really cool subject and great to see a contest like this giving ugly, weird beastie a platform over everything having to be, cetaceans
Yeah.
and beautiful ocean. So really nice to see something different coming up.
Excuse me.
Right.
All right. So this was second place, same category, by Giacomo Marchioni, of a beautiful adult female blanket octopus. And we see, I mean, every competition now has a blanket octopus picture. I personally don't get tired of seeing them, especially when they're well done. And getting to see the full blanket on this one, good eye contact. I the position of the octopus is really really nice, and that seems to be like the hardest thing to achieve when photographing these. And I don't know because I've never seen one, but it seems to me that that's one of the harder things to accomplish is getting the full blanket open and having the octopus itself in a nice position.
Yeah. I think that it's a nice shot. I like it because the blanket is a reasonable size in the frame. Sometimes when the blankets get really huge, it almost becomes a picture of the blanket and there's a tiny head on the end,
Yeah,
which is kind of
yeah,
cool. This one is great because you've got that real eye contact with her, and then you also got some of the beauty of the blanket. It's not fully unfurled, but it's nicely open, and you can see some of the beauty of it. So I think it's a very good shot. Um, in terms of originality, I feel that probably it doesn't score so high, and perhaps that's why it's not a category winner. It's not as if we haven't seen this before.
yeah,
It's always a great achievement of the photographer to get it, but in a contest terms, you might often think, how come we're seeing this again? But nothing wrong with it at all. It's a very well done shot. And I do like the fact that actually you've got particularly nice eye contact in this one, which I think allows a general public audience, which I think this competition is chasing more than an underwater photography audience, the chance to see something remarkable. So for all those reasons, I understand why it's awarded.
yeah.
Okay, our next one is a leopard seal, and what's nice is it's above ice, which is quite cool.
Yeah. So this was third place in the category by Lars von Ritter Zahoni. Zahoni. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. But yeah, leopard seal coming right at the camera, mouth open, and you get some context since, like you said, there's ice in the frame, which you don't always get to see with the leopard seal images. Often it's just mouth or open water behind them. But two of my favorite animals, a war bonnet and the leopard seal, in the same category. I'd have had a hard time judging this one, but this one looks kind of cute and cuddly. Like he looks like he's just coming up to play and not like he's about to eat you or your camera or anything like that.
He does look a bit ET with that mouth open.
A little bit. Just the teeth, the nature of the giant teeth itself, I guess, makes it a little bit eaty. But yeah, I really like it. I'm not a huge fan of uplighting, and this looks it looks sort of uplighting-y. Maybe it's just because the ice is bright in the background. But overall, I do like the picture overall. I think I just want the seal. I think I just want to be a bit brighter.
Yeah.
Because the ice looks a bit bright compared to the seal at the moment.
I think there's an element, ever since backscatter exterminators come along, there's an element now where people are just like, well, I've got rid of the backscatter, so the job's done. And this picture, I think, would be significantly improved with some, like, I wouldn't care if there's a bit of backscatter in it. That's not, but I think there's been an effort to clean all the backscatter out of the picture because you can see the water's not especially clear, but it's absolutely spotless, this picture. But there's not been any attention paid to the seal. And I think, there's some better processing of the big sliders, not the backscatter exterminator. I think would have made a big difference. I think, just a little bit of care on the lighting of it. But it's a very dramatic pose. It's easy. It's a great shot. Very high impact, and it's a very cool shot of a cool animal. So
Yeah.
yeah, nice to see. Um, and quite nice mix of creatures in the competition. Quite a lot of cold
Yeah.
water stuff, which is cool. Right, to the
Mm.
tropics.
So this was the winner of Underwater Seascapes, and this was by Danny
Mm.
Escayola, of, I presume, Palau Jellyfish Lake. I don't know, maybe Raja.
Yeah, I can't tell from the photo. If I had to guess, I would guess Raja, but I've never seen the ones in Raja with as many jellyfish as this. But the scenery looks a bit more Raja than Palau. Wild jellyfish lakes are part of the ocean. They are a very, very specific part of the ocean, and I think within a category like this, I can completely understand why such an amazing shot is the winner. Um, I think that the processing, you can see it's been masked on the underwater part and then brightened way up, and then the surface itself hasn't been brightened. So where it's dark at the very surface, just on the side there, you can see how dark the water really is before it was all brightened up. And I think that a little bit more care could be taken over things like that in these types of shots. It's such a massive adjustment, and just a little. I mean, it's very well masked on the underwater, but why not include the surface? Because the
Hmm.
surface is going to be, the same exposure as the underwater. It's not be darker than the underwater, really. So, I think that a few things like that would have, could have been a little bit better. The above water, a lot of effort's been put into processing the underwater bit, and then the above water bit has been kind of left alone. And I think the above water bit is a little bit washed out.
Hmm.
And I think just a little bit better processing could have made this one a little bit stronger. As a scene, it's incredible. I love all those jellies. I love the fact we've got big ones, small ones. What I think this picture does well is the above water scene has got a great composition, and the underwater scene has got a great composition with a lovely pattern of jellies, but also that kind of main one, then a couple of supporting actors, and then the chorus. And I
Yeah.
think those aspects, the actual taking of this picture is great. I think a little bit more work on the processing, it could be even better.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Oftentimes, when I think I either don't want to spend time processing something, or I don't notice something necessarily that
I,
should have been processed, something like that.
I think we all
Um,
do, to be fair.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I can empathize with this because there would have been some things I probably would have missed as well because I didn't really pay attention to them until you pointed them out. Um, but yeah, I like you said, I like how there's a main jellyfish and then a couple other reasonably close ones, and then you can just see they just go off into the distance for seemingly ever. And I do like the topside composition that none of those hilltops are cut off.
Yeah.
Um, I just think it works. It works really nicely.
It's a
And yeah, now that
very,
you pointed out some of like the dark surface water and some of the, I did notice the sky blown out. Um, but if you're looking at this briefly, you wouldn't necessarily notice those. And
yeah.
so
But
it
that's
is a
why
nice.
I think judging is so important in these contests. Because if you just send one email to the judges and say, pick your favorites, things, people don't notice things. Whereas
Yeah,
if you basically do judging in rounds, and particularly if you put photographers together in a room and one photographer spots something and points it out to the others, I think those things are really, that's why, we talk about judging quite a lot on here. And I think it's why that makes such a difference.
yeah, definitely.
If you give judges time to see the images multiple times, it allows them to spot things. All that said, I would still all those points said, I would still choose this as a winner again and again because it is such a fantastic composition
Yeah.
with just these amazing jellies and the amazing above water composition too. Second place,
Yes, this was by Gerald Rambert of a
he's French,
whole flock of
so
seagull rays, eagle rays. um, I like this one. The one thing that immediately caught my eye that I really wish was different is I wish that tail curving over the top of the frame was totally in the frame and not cut off. because I think it would look really cool framing the top of that whole school. And obviously that's easy to say in for me now sitting here because I wasn't there in the moment. But man, I wish that whole tail was in there. I think it would have been really impactful.
Yeah, it's a lovely peaceful image as well, isn't it? It's got
Yeah.
I really like this shot. It's amazing creatures. I like the fact that it's got this blue tinge to it. I think that often these days, because you can white balance, people do in post, and I like the fact that this has been left quite a blue shot. I think it creates a very peaceful scene as a result. I like the repeating patterns of the eagle rays getting smaller as you go backwards through the frame. That works very well for me. I'm completely with you on the tail. I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, and probably I would think all the judges in this competition were like, category winner.
Yes.
So, it's a really nice shot. It's amazing and a beautiful shot of eagle rays. There would be so much more satisfaction in the shot if that beautiful whipping tail whipped right through the whole picture. Because it's a hugely long tail and it's so close to the photographer, it looks even longer. So, yeah, amazing. Right.
Third place in underwater seascapes by Pedro Carrillo of a dive. I don't know where this was shot, but of a diver over
in El Hierro in the Canaries.
There you go. Over some pretty dramatic underwater features. I guess those are natural.
Yeah, they're basaltic columns that you get when basalt cools slowly. So alkaline lava cools slowly, and then it forms these hexagonal columns, which are really dramatic. And then obviously they're very hard, so they've survived, and what's around them has weathered away. So very, very cool to see. A very unique place. They run a photo sub, on the day or on several days photo competition here every year, and this is a very common sight and shot to be taken. But it's very rarely seen outside that little community.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Every few years, one of these will crop up. People have been doing this shot with a diver in a yellow wetsuit because that's what they wear for the photo sub competitions for years and years. And every time you see it, it is a great shot. And it doesn't normally get seen much outside of that community. And then every few years, it'll pop up again and see here. So, yeah, really cool. It's not always the clearest water there. So it does take good skills to get this shot right in camera. And it's a dramatic scene from the ocean. So, yeah, I think it's a good choice for this category. It's a nice diverse mix, actually. You've got cool jellyfish, a marine life scene, and then geology scene.
And I like it too because I don't know anything about this place. So it's cool to have the diver in there to show the scale of that outcrop, and then it looks like it just plunges into the abyss on either side. So yeah, and obviously I don't know anything about the competition either, but that yellow wetsuit obviously contrasts really nicely against the blue and helps the diver stand out from the rest of the frame. But yeah, really cool.
Right.
Last one.
Another leopard seal.
Yes.
Again, I think, as a critique of the contest as a whole, I think, they've only awarded 10 underwater pictures, and we've had a double repeat now of subjects.
Yeah.
So I think
actually, this is by the same guy. So Lars has 2 leopard seals awarded in this competition. One in big and small faces, and this one in seascapes.
Yeah, it's a different category. So yeah, I think doing a split of this is really good. I like that there's in focus and detail above the surface. I'm not completely convinced there's a great story to tell as a split. I mean, the underwater, you can see the rocks are coming up to the surface, but it's also very cool to see a split level of a leopard seal. I prefer the other picture quite considerably.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm, so therefore I'm a little surprised that this one is awarded, not because this is a bad picture, but just if you're only awarding 10 underwater pictures, it seems a bit of a waste to have, repeated subjects. And therefore, when you get to the second subject of the second repeat subject, you then look at it pretty harshly. It's got to be extra amazing. It's almost got to be a first equal with the other one for me to get an award to justify its place. Otherwise, particularly in a public reaching contest, it's a bit of a waste. I think here the above water scene is a bit far distant, not very compelling. And to be honest, the leopard seal is a little bit far away and not especially compelling. So yeah, I'm surprised this one was awarded, because I'm looking at it harshly like we did with Ollie's shot before, because we've already had this subject.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool animal. Yeah, leopard is one of my favorites. But like you said, the first image of it coming at the camera underwater, I think that's a much, much better image. And this one doesn't really do much for me other than the fact that it's a cool animal and I'd like to go to Antarctica. But there have been some spectacular leopard seal split shots, especially in the last couple of years. So I think that's harder to stand out with. Like if you shot this picture 10 years ago, everyone would lose their minds. But I've seen some really, really good leopard seal splits now that I don't think this one does as much for me as it would have back in the day. And like you said, I think there needs to be more on the top side half for this to really warrant a split, or at least have the seal closer to the frame. Although I do like the fact that it's looking right at the camera. That's cool. Yeah, I definitely prefer the other seal shot. And hopefully Lars has shot both of them, so hopefully he's not insulted by saying that we love one of them and
it's for me, it's more of a comment on like the results. Is that this is a competition that's aiming to take the oceans to the public, to the to the UN audience, in a very important year for the ocean, and you've got 10 underwater shots to do it, and repeating subjects in that 10 seems like a waste of a shot. Unless that second shot is so amazing it must be seen because it's completely different and, from the first one and completely brilliant. And that's why I think we've been quite harsh on those two. Because of that, not as images particularly, but because of that. Right. To finish off, we'll just have a quick look at these topside shots.
Leander Nardin. I don't know where this is from. I don't know if it's said it doesn't say here. But it looks like it reminds me of like one of the hot springs in Yellowstone National Park, if anyone's familiar with those.
I guess it's got to be something to do with the ocean because it's ocean themed. So maybe it's a saltwater lagoon that's always evaporating and then it sucks water in from the ocean or something.
Yep, maybe.
Who knows?
Friend of the show, Nerd Tucker, with some gannets over a rocky seascape. I presume in the UK.
Yeah, I guess it's in Noss in Shetland, but I don't know. But there you've got the high cliffs that you can look down over. I like the textures of the water very much. I find the gannets get a bit lost in it all, for me. Yeah. But maybe that's what the judges really liked. But yeah, but I do like the shot. I just it's an unusual one. But maybe when it's seen big, it's you get more from it.
So this was third place by Andre Nosik, who also had the war bonnet shot earlier. This looks like Greenland or Antarctica or something like that. I'm a sucker for reflections, so this is my favorite of the category because it's almost a perfect mirror image, top to bottom.
Also, have the blue ice is always very cool to see, isn't it?
Also cool, yeah. And then finally, honorable mention by Ken Findlay of this. What looks to be a monster wave about to break. It doesn't say where, it doesn't say where it was taken. But
I would imagine the wave photographers know exactly to the centimeter where it's taken. Maybe Hawaii or somewhere they do a lot of these shots. I think it's a fantastic shot. You can't fault something like this. I think it's probably ended up at the lower end of this selection because we've seen these shots before. They're always great. They represent the ocean fantastically well. But this shot is a very, very nice version of a shot we've seen lots before, I think.
Yeah.
And that is our run through.
Thank you guys for watching. We like doing these image reviews, and as Alex has said on countless occasions, it wouldn't be a benefit to anybody if we came on here and just said, "Oh, great shot, great shot, great shot, great shot." We try to look at these a bit critically. just because I think we think that's more beneficial for people who are listening to this. So if you enjoyed this, please comment below, let us know, and we will see you guys next time on the Underwater Photography Show.